Now it's time. Time to get your mind moving, reach for your dreams, and find happiness and success in your life. Welcome to The Mindset Man. And here is your host, the Mindset Man himself, Todd Radis.
Welcome to the broadcast. This is Todd Radis. I'm sitting here with one of the most amazing people I met over this past year, Eric Lewis Power. This man runs a veterans assistance group, but I'm not going to tell you about it because he needs to tell you what he does. So, Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very, very happy, and you surprised me when you asked me to come on. So I'm very happy and pleased to be here.
So, Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are and how you're able to help so many veterans?
I did 10 years in the service, 10 years in the Navy, seen a lot of bad things while I was in the Navy, experienced a lot of good things. And during my 10 years, I got injured pretty bad, broke my back and injured my knees and a shoulder pretty bad. And then when I got out, I went to the standard forms of help, didn't receive what I thought was an adequate form. And my mind being in the military, I was a parachute rigger, so very, very, very OCD, very by the book, very detail oriented, very Lean Six Sigma oriented. Three deficiencies, and I think 3 million, 6 million. I can't remember. It's been a while since I looked at it, and so that's the kind of level as a parachute rigger and life support systems tech you strive to achieve. And so when I got out, naturally my mind was going to that same thing because I had just doing the same thing as a civilian now, but as a contractor for the military, and I was looking for that same sort of excellence per se. And I went to the VA, the VITA, VFW, the Legion, the DAV, a couple of law firms, and nobody really just there was no fit, right? And then I got pushed sideways, and what I was being told by these places was different from what I was reading and how I was comprehending it. And every time I would ask questions, people will always go on the defense, like I was trying to argue with them when I was just trying to get clarification. So after that, I went to business school, and I realized I wanted to get away from the military and away from naval aviation, and I was able to successfully get myself the max you could get 100% permanent total. Then I started helping friends, and as an entrepreneur, they tell you find a problem, find a business.
Right.
And then go ahead.
So you saw a problem in the way the VA operates.
A massive problem.
Yeah, I can't imagine that being a vet myself, that there's a problem with the way the VA operates.
Yeah. And then I did some research, and I was like, there's 25 million veterans out there. There's 3,000 veterans separated a month. We all come out. We all have PTSD. Any veteran that you talk to, they have PTSD because at some point in time, whether it be 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 4 years, however long you did, you were institutionalized and you were trained to think a certain way and operate a certain way. And when you leave that realm, that environment, and you go to a completely new one, it's shocking to the brain. And in that instance, when I realized that, and I was reading the regulations, and I wasn't going to the VA, and I was actually reading the regulations and word by word and interpreting them in a certain way, I realized that every single veteran separating, if they were to do things correctly and document and get the help that they're supposed to, in according to the regulations and in the DoD regulations as well, right? Then every single veteran will walk away with 70%. Then I started thinking again, and I'm just kind of like, well, if everybody walked away with 70%, because they don't tell you about the VA disability program while you're in, it's like that program is taboo. That's the word I'm looking for when you talk about it, right?
Right.
And you don't learn about it until TAPS class, and then you're done, right? And if someone else knows or someone meets me, I tell them all about it. I'm like, yep, this is what you do. Call me when you get out. right? And people are
Right.
always happy to meet me because I tell them how it is. But when you take $3,000 or 3,000 veterans a month separating from service, that all should be at roughly $1,500 a month, add that up, right? And so when I started realizing this would be reoccurring for the VA, for the government, and so when I started adding the numbers up, and I started looking at the frontline defense and the things that were told to me by all the accredited agencies, by the law firms, by the VFW, by the Legion, by the VA itself, by the TAV, right? And I started looking at all the common complaints, and the one common complaint, and I took a step back and I looked at it from an outside circle, right? When I was in the military, we worked high-paced environments. I worked with officers all the time, and I worked with special forces a lot. So I got to think, I was always taught, right? That's the key thing. I was always taught an advanced level of thinking and an advanced way to look at things. And so when I was presented with this situation, I took a step back after I got frustrated to the point where I figured I wanted to do on my own. I took a step back, realized what was going on, realized what the problem was, using the programming that I was taught, the Six Sigma, figured out how to streamline it, right? And make it most efficient as possible, build a company around it. And now to date, since 2012, when I started, right? And I count everybody that I helped in this number, we have redirected right just over $1.8 million a month from the VA back to our clients.
Very good,
Recurring,
man.
Right?
Congratulations. Well,
Yeah.
That's a huge challenge you faced. Well, for one, you know, I have the experience, some of the listeners won't, but when you're dealing with government paperwork and red tape, I don't know if they put the blockades in on purpose or if it's just the way bureaucracies work. They're not efficient in any way, shape, or form. So you came in, correct me if I'm wrong here, it sounds like you came in and you created a way of efficiently taking a veteran into the status that he should be with the VA.
Absolutely, 100%. That's it. Because I don't communicate with the VA, and people think I do magic. No, I just do it the way it's supposed to be done and as efficiently as possible. The VA doesn't do that, because when you're not efficient on the front lines, then nobody gets through. And then they save money.
Yeah, so you've created that. Now, your transition from the military, I had the same transition, and I kind of know what I went through. And you're right. You're in this mindset when you're in the service, and that's their mindset. It's not yours. You've been taught to think this way, but when you get out, there's this transition period back to civilian life.
2 years.
2 years minimum. If you know that you're in the transition, the problem is a lot of the guys don't, myself included. I was having a successful career, but my home life was a disaster because that military mindset was allowing me to achieve at work and apply my theories and my philosophies to my work. But then when I came home, I'm a mental wreck. Mm-hmm. And I know that you've gone through a similar journey. And how did you finally make that transition? What was one of the key steps that you did?
That was one of the most difficult things in my life to do was change the radio station. And in business, so when I got out, very similar, right? I got out, I had the same job I did in the military. I got a job as a contractor doing it for the Navy. So I was doing the same thing, just now a civilian. Well, the military mindset transition into the civilian mindset, it was difficult. And I was staying around that military environment. So it was even more. Home was civilian, inside was military. Home, I could call in and if I wanted to, and didn't really have to go to work and didn't have to worry about getting in trouble. Going to work was military environment, but I was a civilian, so it was really just extra difficult. How I worked through it, a lot of trial and error. The first 2 years, right? I was working on base and doing my own claims. Wasn't even thinking about starting the claims as a business, was just helping. Started going to school. One thing, again, military, I need to get what my qualifications. How do I get your qualifications as a civilian? Go to school. Need to go to school, right? So I was doing that, going to the classes, working on my degree, which I'm still doing. I'm working on my leadership, my doctorate in leadership now.
Well, I would say that you've transitioned into a leadership position, like it or not.
Yeah.
When people start to look up to you for guidance, you become a leader, and people are looking to you for guidance regularly. As a matter of fact, I sent you a friend over, and you're helping him get his benefits. And this man struggled since '91 after the Gulf War, and was never rated with the PTSD problems that he's had. And I felt horrible for him, but he's also now a coaching student of mine, which is
good,
which is amazing, because I of all the people I worked with, because I worked at the VA, I understand what the red tape's like over there. And honestly, the people sitting in the chairs, they don't know the rules any better than the people coming in. They know just what they've been taught about their little niche.
And they're taught the very, very minimum.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, it was funny that you say that, because just 2 days ago, I was talking to someone who works at the VA, right? And they're in a very high up position, so I'm not going to mention their name.
Right.
And this person was telling me, and we were talking, and there's a piece of paperwork that you have to get filled out, or the veterans have the option to get filled out. So I've streamlined the process, right? And she was like, "What's the most difficult part that you're having?" And I was like, "Okay, with the process." So I'm like, when we send them to, because we have our own psychs, we have our own psychiatrists on staff, which streamlines the process, right? So now they're doing a teleconference like this, and we're filling out the paperwork for them. But most of the, not most of the time they get accepted, but there's sometimes I'd say about 30% of the times they don't use them. And I was like, well, that's frustrating, because we set up this time, it takes the doctor's time, the veteran's time, and it's not accepted. And she was telling me, well, most of the time when the claim gets to that first person and it's turned in with that claim, 98% of veterans don't fill that paperwork out, and they have to do it a certain way. They're trained very rarely on how to do it when they get that paperwork. They're trained to look at it one day. They're trained to how to look at and read that paper. They're not confident in the way they read it, so they schedule them to see a doctor to fill out that paperwork anyways, even though that paperwork that's already filled out, and by law they have to accept it, it's right here. That one person's not trained, and so they schedule to see the doctor. And then when it goes to the final underwriting process, where you have the roundtable and the adjudicators and everything, they look at the doctor's paperwork, because it's their doctors, and sometimes they don't even go to our paperwork, or the paperwork doesn't even make it to the final.
Yeah, so you've stepped in and you're educating the veterans on how to do this properly, streamline the process, and get them through. But one of my biggest interest in you is that mindset change from worker to business owner. Like you said, when we first started, you found a problem that needed solved. And anybody who's in the entrepreneur business knows that we want to solve a problem, then create a service to fix that problem. But you've done that. I mean, your business is very successful, and
we're growing very, very rapidly. To the point where I just had to bring on 2 new claim managers, and like yesterday, right? And so we just hired them. They start Monday morning, 8 a.m. sharp. We're moving into a new office, but the mind shift change was the biggest difficult thing I had, was having confidence in myself.
Okay, so it was like most of us, we lack in confidence, and
and so
a lot of times people are way out there, and they're actually hiding their lack of confidence. But
and so when I first started, I knew I could do it, but my biggest problem, I had left. I had got hit with another traumatic incident, and I had just kind of took a sabbatical away from the company. And I was trying other things, and I was very confident, because I found a big problem. Not a lot of companies know how to do it, and so I kind of created my own niche, which is very rare. It's kind of a blue ocean. Since I've started, there's been like 4 or 5 other companies. When I saw that happen, I started saying, hey, this is what you need to do find a blue ocean, create a niche, zig when everybody's zagging. And when I did that and it started being successful, I thought all business was like that, right? And so I kind of got cocky. My first business I start, and then it's just kind of takes off, and then we build a team that's supposed to operate, and then I go back and try to do other stuff. Those fail. I'm like, okay, I got slapped in the face, let's come back. But I had to work mentally through the loss of my first partner, right? So that was a big whammy that I have. My first partner in this company, 3 days after I made him partner, found him dead from suicide. He was a veteran. And so left the company, right? And had to work through that, and just not being there from them was eating at my my confidence and whatnot. And then I hooked up with, at that time I hooked up with, I hadn't met Greg yet, Ty. I started going to Tai Lopez's conferences. And
okay, so you started to get some mindset from
training. And so
yeah,
my first introduction to personal development was Tai Lopez's commercial. He hooked me with the Lamborghini, and I started watching it, the 67 steps. And then I was like, all right. And he kind of pursued me I was already after I opened my business, and I was like, I was lucky to get more than $1,000 in my account at any time. And I had an office, and I was making bills, and I was making enough, and I had got my 100%. So I had kind of an advantage as well to everybody else that's doing business, because I was getting that VA money, right?
But
so
you were at that plateau point where a lot of entrepreneurs actually fail. That you're right. You were on that teetering point, and
yeah, there's a couple times a company should have failed. And by God's grace, we're still here. But I went to Ty's conference, spoke there, spoke in his New York one, was in his mastermind, all of that. And then just being around him, being around his environments. I've never been around it. I was enlisted in the military. I grew up on the dirt side of poor, and grew up with, mother and father separated, father, big drug addict and asshole. That's why I changed my name to Power. And mother, worked 2 jobs, was a party girl her entire life, didn't stop partying. So she was like,
so how did you get to the point where you stopped embracing all that as an excuse and started to go ahead and make your life move in the direction?
Masterminds.
Association.
Ty's personal development program, the 67 steps. He did the first one. He went from 92.1 to 92.2, then 92.3 for the mind, right? Changing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started meeting people who I started telling them what I do. And instead of people putting me down at the people I was hanging out with, saying, no, don't quit your job. You're making good money. Don't quit that job. You got a government job, right? To people are like, man, that's amazing. To keep doing it. You're doing good. You're helping people. You're making money. Keep doing it. Have you thought about doing this instead? No. Let me try that. Have you thought about doing this with your marketing? No. Let me try that. And then Ty's personal encouragement led me to go out more. And so spending the money at Ty's mastermind was the most I ever spent at the time, until I met Greg. Right?
Yeah. Greg was an expensive association to make.
Yeah, and so
I'm back at his event this March. I'm not going to miss this.
See you.
Are you going to be there too?
Yeah, we always do the production for him. So all the cameras in the back that are filming and taking pictures, that's all me.
Oh, well, congratulations. You did a great job last year.
Appreciate it. And then so I met him. So here's what really when I got cocky after Ty. I met a kid. I went to Greg's event. And still very childish mindset, felt like I was in high school, felt like I was 20. And I blame a lot of that for the 10 years in service and just being stuck, right? So the last time I was free was like 19, 20, joined this cult environment, separated, free again, right? And so my mindset when I got out was like a 20-year-old, and I needed to catch up. And so by joining the associations and being around people like Greg and Payne, $8,000 to go to a 2-day event where I'm supposed to meet some pretty amazing people, and just being around them. And at the time, I would always stay quiet and just take notes, because I didn't know what to say. And I didn't feel confident enough to talk to people. right? And so I
Right.
would just
And look at you
you know,
now. You're on my radio show.
right? Amazing. I love it. I'm so happy. And then and being a veteran with PTSD, it's even more difficult because I could barely go to a bar and talk to someone that I don't know, let alone go to an event and talk to this guy who's worth $1.2 billion, or talk to this guy who's worth $600 million, and
Yeah,
it's just
and
like
then you
these
find out that they went through the same kind of things you're
same
going
thing,
through, and they
right?
embrace being a little bit different. They
Absolutely.
embrace a
And
niche.
so when I went to Greg's event, the first Secret Knock I ever went to, I swear to God, I felt, I'm like, these are my people. This is my home. This is my family. And I just felt welcomed. And then that led to the club Karma. And Karma is just the only way I can imagine, I can put it, is like a motorcycle gang for entrepreneurs and philanthropists and anybody who wants to just go and party and have fun and have a nice giving mindset, right?
Right.
And being with them, I realized that uh, associating with them and talking with them and being with them kind of just helped me change my mindset for the better and learn how to focus on the company and work past the bad things that have happened and be okay with it in my head.
Yeah, I have a you're probably not aware of it because you don't need it. I would never send it over to you, but I have a getting started pamphlet, and it has the 5 steps to starting out, to start changing your life. And the second
Send it.
step, well, it's right on my website. We'll get you
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the 5 steps to getting started. And the second one, the first one is know what you want, but the second
Right.
one is create beneficial associations.
Yeah.
It's the
That's
second step is you already knew what you wanted. So you had the first step, you got it started, but you reach those plateaus, and then you all of a sudden you make these beneficial associations, and then everything else falls into the line. And you also mentioned something I call learning at the next level. Stop trying to learn from people who don't know what they're talking about, and start learning from people who have already done it.
Mhm.
And those are the things that really get us going. And everyone I talk to, it's like you're. I know you're well aware of Napoleon Hill. If you're around Greg Reed for more than
Yeah.
5 minutes, you're going to know about Napoleon Hill. But Napoleon Hill teaches you that too. Your associations that you have are extremely important, and making yourself a better person to increase those associations so that they benefit you, you benefit them also. It's
100%.
I always say, be a benefit first. Don't worry about what's coming back to you.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're one of
100%.
you're one of the first guests on the show, but I want to
Love
get
it.
your business out there. So you're going to be what Joey Yak calls rock within probably 6 months, which is recycled content. It's going to get your message back out there once the listeners are there.
Right.
So my whole goal
right.
is, what am I going to do for the people who come on here who are helping me out? Because you're helping me out. You're coming on, and that just shows what kind of quality person you are. You're here. You didn't even know what was going on with the show, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm there." And those are,
well, I know we met at SK, and I know you're a veteran. I know you're taught. I know you help with mindset, and that's enough for me. That's all I need to know. And I know we connected at SK, and every veteran I meet, I try to remember face and kind of what they do, because I have very short-term memory loss, and then it's California and the weed's legal now, so it's okay.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. I knew you were a great person, and I saw you helping vets, and having done a short stint at the VA. As a matter of fact, the VA was my last job before I went out on my own.
I'm sorry.
It was.
Well, it's a good job to leave if you go out on your own.
It was the final nail in the coffin of mindset, because I felt like I had gone backwards. A 25-year successful career in management to end up at a government job. And when you get a chance to read my book, and you realize that that's the job I left to go do this, you're like, no wonder this guy finally got it. But I'm watching my wife, who's 17 years younger than me, nail it.
Yeah.
And I'm the one coaching her. So again, that self-evaluation.
You
What
know,
am
it's
I
funny.
doing wrong?
It's funny that you said that, because before I started, you know, the right around the same time I started, you know, I was telling people what they need to do. Like I was telling my mom, I was telling my sister, I was telling my brother, I was telling my friend, I was telling another friend I remember. I'm like, this is what you guys need to do to go make money. And I'm trying to do different things. My first business I wanted to start, when I still want to do it, was a hunting ranch, a private hunting ranch. I want to buy like 200 acres up in Northern California and put pigs from Texas and charge $500 for someone to come shoot it, and then have someone pay someone like $15 to clean them real quick and butcher them up, put them in a cooler, man. And then, are you kidding me?
That was your business idea, huh?
That was my business. And there's people
I
that do it here and make money. I do it all the time. Yeah.
Well, we all do that. And those failures and setbacks, those are the things that actually grow us. When everything finally clicks, you realize how easy that's going to be to actually achieve if you just stick to it. And obviously you've got several of the biggest keys down, or you wouldn't be where you're at. You wouldn't be helping, you know, thousands of vets get, because that's where, I don't know how many a month would you say you help right now?
We have 6 agents on the phone that take 3 to 5 calls a day.
Nice. Good job,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
that's something you can be really happy about.
yeah, we get about 300. Well, it went down to about 200 leads last week, which tells me there's something wrong with my marketing ads on social media. And I mean, that tells me that people are getting bored of seeing the same ad. And so they're skipping it. So I got to go in and change that up. And I saw that today. So that's in the back of my mind.
Well, again, there's another key to the mindset. Don't blame the ad. It's me. I haven't done something with the ad to correct it. And it's those little differences in mindset that make the difference between people who fly up to the top and people who get stuck on that teeter-totter.
The biggest thing for mindset, understand, and I mentor a couple of people personally as well, a couple of veterans, and one of the biggest things I tell them, when a situation happens, try to understand why instead of picking a side. Why? So for the marketing ads, why one time we were getting this many and we're not getting, why did it go down? Well, the most logical explanation is people keep seeing it and get bored. Think about, what would you do if you saw an ad over and over? What do you do? Exit it out. Don't want to see this, hide it, right? And so, but it increases the defectivity. And even when you're talking to someone and you have an argument, or someone, why are we having this argument? Break it down, you know, backstep, babe, look at the sole purpose, and then take a step back and be like, if that wasn't happening to me right now, would you laugh or would you still get angry? And if you would laugh at the person and think that's silly, they shouldn't be arguing about that, then why are you arguing about it? Why are you letting it make you angry inside? And if you can figure out how to do that and remain quiet, then you're good. Like a lot of people that I work with have anger issues, right? PTSD, and all PTSD is a little bit of brain damage from and cortisol, right? I forget the name of the gland, but it just shoots out cortisol. It's like putting gasoline in the engine that you can't stop. So people with PTSD are naturally a little bit irritable, right? And they don't understand. But if you can understand, you can teach yourself how to understand and retrain yourself the brain to think, you can actually fix the brain damage. But it's difficult. And one of the biggest things is understand what's going on, think of it logically, right? And then if you have tics that come out, right? So people use, like, it's the same thing with autistic kids, or kids that talk a lot. You know, in school, I was always told you got talk a lot. Well, sometimes you can't stop it from happening, but you can keep it from coming out. So one of the guys I work with not all the time, but about once every 2 weeks, and he's been making major improvements. He's a veteran. He's had anger issues. He's gone to therapy and different psychology, gone to anger management. And I told him, he's like, what happened? He's like, I just start talking and I can't stop it. Like, well, can you keep it from coming out? Like, let it happen. Just don't say anything. And then after you scream all you want. Just scream in your head. Your eyes can get big. Your mouth can move. Just don't say anything. And then once you're done screaming, then understand what feelings, right? If you feel bad or you feel happy or whatever, you feel scared, understand why you're feeling that way, take a step back and then look at it from a different point of view.
Yeah, I work with a couple of vets on the PTSD, and I won't go into it right now because it can get really personal.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the problems with vets with PTSD. I think they need other vets to help them. Any people who have been through those transitional periods and made it. Because let's be honest, you come from a veteran's background, and the mindset of a vet when they come out, and if they can't change that mindset, which is really hard, is that a civilian doesn't understand. And
no.
They don't. And you cannot convince, but for some reason, the civilian doctors and psychologists have a really hard time accepting that someone isn't going to accept their degree as a qualification to help them. They'd rather talk to a guy who's been in excuse my French, who's been in the shit.
Right.
And understands and got out of it than they would someone who has a 8-year degree in psychology and goes, I know exactly which pill will help you. Yeah. You're right. You have to reprogram that brain. You have to get the chemicals going, and it takes time and effort. And, I told you my helicopter story, which is the same thing. I just started associating those anger bursts to that major event that I remember. And put myself down in meditation mode. And it's amazing because it wasn't the most traumatic event, but it was the one I think that did the program change initially, or it was the key after everything added up. So I always tell them, find the one event to focus on. And when that event happens, stop yourself where you're at, let yourself be mad, but then just tell yourself it was, for me, I call it was just a helicopter. For my other buddy, it was a fire mission. For another guy, it was a round off. I don't even know what these things mean, but it doesn't matter because it has meaning to them. Because I tell them, don't tell me about the event. I don't need to know. You've been reprogrammed. I'm going to just tell you how to work with my little system here, and you're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to get through that. But you've got to believe there's two key things. You got to believe first you can change. And you've got to be willing to put the time in and the effort. And my greatest success right now is a guy that I'm coaching. And this guy went from 3 to 5 outbursts a day to 1 a week in the first 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. That's good.
And he's a total sweetheart when he gets around vets, but he gets around civilians. He was like a bomb waiting to go off. and the effect.
They're not acting in accordance. Their hair's all out of style. Their clothes are wrinkled. They're wearing pajamas out, and they have shade. They have this the beards going on, and then their shaves out, and their fingernails aren't there, and their shoes aren't shining, and they're not standing up straight. Don't they know that they're messing up?
Yeah, it's like a shock to the system.
Like, Jesus, what's going on? Don't you know? And then they look at you and they roll their eyes at you. God forbid a civilian at the grocery store roll the eyes. Don't they know how difficult it is for us just to be there?
Yeah,
that is what goes through.
That's what goes through the back of your head all the time, and you have to realize that all of us as vets, we have to realize that your fellow vets understand. The civilians don't take it out on them because they weren't there. And we can't blame them for it. This is voluntary service, whether we like it or not. We all signed on the line and went in voluntarily.
Right.
We don't have that excuse. Most of us were patriots, and we went in because we were young and we had these ideologies or desires that we wanted to live out, and we saw the military as the best path. When I went in was earlier than you guys. There was no war. I got thrown into a war my last 9 months in. Oh, wow. It was like, I was here for practice time.
Right? Come on, guys. Do we have to do this?
Do we have to do a real war? I kind of like the practice bombing thing. That works out a lot better. So anyways, why don't you give us some information on how to get a hold of you so any vets that are listening to us will know how to get a hold of your business. So how about
Sure. You can shoot me an email. We're getting our email, our website up. It's vetdisabilityhelp.com. So just like it's spelled, vet, V-E-T, disability, right? And then help.com, no dots, nothing in between. And then you can shoot me a email. Shoot me an email at eric@vetdisabilityhealth.com.
Okay, and do you have a Facebook page or any place else they can follow you at?
Facebook page, you can go just search Veterans Disability Help or at VDH2015. We're reprogramming and rebranding everything. So go in, like us, follow us, and then we're gonna be doing. I'm working on, after all the all the rebranding is done, we're gonna start doing. I'm gonna do like a weekly 2 to 3 minute video, because they say, did you know that the average time span now when watching a video is less than 90 seconds?
Yep.
People lose.
If you don't hook them in the first minute and a half, they leave.
Yeah.
Unless they're there for some other reason than entertainment, then they'll sit there.
And so
that's a mindset thing. If you're there to just be entertained, and it doesn't hook them quickly. So, one of the reasons we put together the intro music for the show was to just draw some interest and get people kind of grooving a little bit. Okay, yeah, so we got outro music, but it's get them on there. And well, I'm gonna ask you now, just make sure that you get that form filled out that I sent over to you, because that's got questions, so I can put the links up when we do this, and we'll get this out on YouTube and Facebook and everything when we get it all edited and put out. So let's thank Eric for coming today. I really appreciate
it. It's awesome, man.
Being here while I'm new at this and working through some of the growing pains. We'll have some editing going, and thank you for listening.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you for listening to this broadcast of The Mindset Man. We greatly appreciate you have taken the time to be with us today. You will be what you believe you will be. You will find the show at toddradis.com or inspirednewsradio.com. Have a great day, and we will see you soon.